I think essentially this play is about the value of literature in Singapore society, and it's based on the idea what happens when literature disappears. And the play explores that phenomenon. Literature actually disappears in the play, not just literature, but literature teachers, people who are interested, children who are interested in reading literature, books are taken away from their childhood. So it profiles also characters with sort of literary imagination being stripped from them, and explores the consequences of this. The play also tries to give multiple perspectives to this phenomenon. So you have people who are indifferent, who don't see it as a problem. You have people who support the disappearance of certain types of books that are deemed detrimental to national values. And then, of course, you have people who care about literature that get affected when they see something that they love being, robbed from them. So essentially, that's the gist of the play. Yeah. I think Boiler Room has been an incredible learning process. It has provided a really good learning platform for me. I think when it all started 1.5 to 2 years ago, I wrote in a proposal, and my idea was just to write a historical play about Lim Boon Keng and how he started, how he brought, sort of introduced the idea of literature and a literary community in Singapore in the early 19th century, the late 19th century. But I had no idea how to write the play. I just had an idea, but no idea how to write it. So then the Boiler Room process started. I think what was great was that the early stages of this Boiler Room process was just a lot of reading and dialoguing with Casey and Robin, and also with the 2 other Boiler Room participants. And this was very good because through brainstorming, my entire idea changed, and I decided to focus a lot more on a concept of a talk show, an absurdist idea. So then I started writing it. But as I wrote, I also felt like I'm not really getting it, I'm not really getting what I want to say. So I felt writing for me was a process of thinking. Because if I had just written a complete play, or if I had just written a diary or blogged about it, I wouldn't learn in the process, and I wouldn't be able to articulate what exactly I was trying to explore. So writing became a process for me. I would say that the first draft was very important. The first draft was not a play. Now I look back at it. It was a thesis. It was like an academic paper. But it was so important because from that first draft, I knew what was the context already. And I knew who the important characters, and I also knew what was the most important theory underlying the disappearance of literature. And I called it the dematerial theory. That is, things we don't love disappear. And I only came to that realization after that first draft. So after that, there was the first read, and the main feedback was that it's too academic. So I met with Casey and Robin again, and again it was a process of just discussion, a process of dialogue, But the attention now turned to how do you turn your thesis into drama, and that was the main focus. And so a lot of things were cut down, and the whole direction shifted. I took out the whole initial dramatic frame changed. Now it was about an investigation story, and it was about a character who grows up with literature taken from her. And I would say this is like an unpolished jewel. I would say it's still rough, but the story is emerging. I think from today's read, it's clear that there are parts of that story that people can sort of identify with now. There are still parts that are theoretical, but I think that those can be easily weaved into the story. But so I would say that the process helped me clarify my thinking, and it helped me clarify the story I wanted to tell. Yeah. Okay, I think we were asked to read two plays, one by Carol Churchill and the other one I can't remember now. Anton Chekhov, yeah, the other one. And the third one, play that we chose. So I think what was very interesting was that these three different plays approach theatre in different genres and different styles. So one, for example, I remember was part historical, part realist. Another one was absurdist, you know. So it's very good in introducing us to the different ways you can tell a story. Because when I first joined Boiler Room, I had the idea, but I didn't know how to tell the story in dramatic form. I mean, I've written a few plays before, but this story was a little bit tricky for me because it had a historical component, and at the same time I wanted it to be a bit more non-realist. So how do you balance the historical with non-realist? I felt that research part was important because it gave us a feel of different writers who tried different forms successfully, you know. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think I go back to the first point, which is that writing is a process of clarifying one's thinking. So I would say that I don't know whether I've come to the end of that clarity yet. I know it's emerging, but I would say one of the challenges, of course, is that you have a lot of voices. You have when I wrote the second draft, I sent it to my peers, my colleagues at work, and then Robin and Casey also read it. And then today we had a read where there were 6 different actors from different backgrounds who read it. So I think from all the feedback, you hear many different voices. One of the challenges of a playwright is you need to be selective. You need to know. You need to not be. You need to take in the opinions of people, but you need to find your own voice. You cannot get lost and carried away, because everyone is very helpful. Everyone is thinking from their perspective what's going to help the play. But ultimately, this is my own story. This is the world I'm creating. These are characters I'm creating, and I have to live with this story I'm telling. It has to be something that I own. So I think I'm still trying to balance that, accommodating what's useful from others, but finding my own voice in this story as well. My gut feel is there's a very important idea here, and it is an idea that is beyond me, meaning that we're living at a time where literature is being devalued, and I would even say we're living in a crisis moment where children are growing up. Most of our secondary school kids are growing up without sufficient exposure to literary texts. As I listen to the feedback and the dialogue of people, more and more I'm convinced this is an urgent message that we have to get across. The question is how to get across. So I think my gut feel is that we have to keep pushing it. We have to keep trying to refine it, and get the best story out. I don't know how long that will take. But I think there's going to be a rainbow at the end of this, because it has taken 2 years. A lot of people have been involved. What I'm hearing is that some parts have been consistent that they liked. From the first and the second reading, certain things have come across, and I have to focus on what's the strength of the play and build on its strength. Certain things that are a bit too wordy, I think those can be reworked. Keep developing it until it is the best it can be. But I'm also acknowledged that you cannot please everyone. So it has to satisfy myself. It has to satisfy Center 42, Casey and Robin. I think I wanted to meet the highest standard. I think today we had people really who were in drama for many years, so they have years of experience, and I think it's very valuable to get their opinions. So the point is, I think all this shouldn't go to waste. We should capture what's good. We should build on the strengths of the play and see where it leads. Yeah, I don't know, but it's an adventure. I'm quite a positive person, so let's see where it goes. What I'm really scared of is we come to a stage where people don't care. People don't even care about the value of literature and don't want to talk about it. And that's why I think the play is important. The play is a platform to make people talk. And if we really go back to the to the early literary communities, both in Singapore as well as in Europe, literature was not about just reading a book. Literature was about reading a book, then getting together with groups of people to discuss and talk about it. And that's what I hope to see. I hope people one day will watch a play about literature, and after that play, they'll start talking about it. They'll start getting interested. They'll start asking questions about, what's that book they mentioned in that play? Maybe I should read it up. Or this character in the play, it sounds like a particular teacher, or sounds like what happened in my past. How can I respond to that? How can I not be someone in that play who destroys literature in other people's lives? I want that play to be a kind of a catalyst for people to once again see that literature matters in society, and let it not be something that is just discussed at policy level, but something that's real for people. It's hard to say. First of all, it's difficult to. I'm not a full-time playwright. I have a full-time job. I have a 14-month-old girl. I'm looking baby, and lots of other things going on at the moment. So I think it's about carving out time to write this. I wouldn't say I would have done anything differently. I would say that this is a necessary process. You can't get to the end unless you go through these stages. I would say the first stage was about just vomiting out all the ideas, putting it on paper and writing out what is it I'm trying to say, what is the theory behind it. A lot of people can write characters and write interesting dramatic things, but there's no philosophical substance. My first stage was getting at the theoretical, the philosophical first. The second stage was, okay, now I know what's the philosophical idea I'm trying to get across. Now how to dramatize it, okay? How to create characters around it, how to create characters that have can bring this across. I would say the third stage is telling the story. I know from this second stage, it's quite clear that we know who the characters are. We know at least who are the valuable and strong characters in this play that we need to keep. Okay, the third stage, which I don't know how long that will take, is making that stronger, making the characterization and the dramatic elements stronger, and that's the story phase, finding out the story. So I think I wouldn't do anything different. I think this is a process. At the end of the day, you will have all three elements in the play. You have the theoretical, the characters, and the story. and that would be the finished stage. So the pieces are coming together, I would say. I think I would prefer a dialogue with a smaller team, or people who are playwrights, or people who are like Robin and Casey. Not so much actors. I think actors are valuable, but actors tend to see things from performance. Whereas I prefer to write a script that allows the director and the actor to just imagine how to do it. For me, what's important in this next stage is really the story and the characters, and how the script can sufficiently tell that without telling too much. I think if there's one thing I got from today, I think the essential point is not to tell too much. Okay, not to tell too much, and to develop the characters and stories more. And I think that kind of feedback is very valuable, and I think I'm looking forward to collaborating on even further dialogue, but with playwrights who can advise me on how to do that. It's a very tricky question because some people want more because otherwise they don't understand the story. Actually, there were two contradictory points of view today. People actually listen carefully. There were some people who said they don't really understand the play and wanted a bit more of the connections. Then there were some who said there's too much information and don't have to tell me too much. So it's very tricky for a playwright because you can't read the actors' minds. It depends on their background. If you have a background in lit and you already have some kind of you have a history or dealing with plays like that, you can make the connections. If you don't, then the play seems fuzzy. So I think that's a challenge, and I think I want to hear from seasoned playwrights how they do that. Yeah. The first is you must have an idea, but don't have such a clear idea. It's all right if your idea is not clear. Your idea should not be about an event or character. I think your idea should start from a philosophy. What's the philosophical idea or concept you are exploring? So even if it's abstract or ambiguous, I think the more ambiguous, the more abstract it is, the more interesting it is. And the second one is more practical. You need a lot of resilience. You need a very thick skin, and you need resilience. You need to writing a play is not something that you can come up with overnight. It's a dialogic process. It's a process of talking to a lot of people, and it's a process of always pushing through, staying committed to your project. I think those are two things that you need.